Shalom Aleichem, Erev Tov, good evening. We are together tonight. I'm hoping tonight to discuss the writings of Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, alav shalom. His Askara, Sheloshim already, is this Thursday. I was invited personally to be there, but I wasn't able to make the trip. It's a long trip for one day to go. Instead, the family has sent us a Zoom link, and I'm inviting everyone on their behalf to join us in person this Thursday for the Askara. For those who want to hear a little bit more about Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi and his life and things that I shared reflections on his passing in the Sunday morning that I was in Miami. That Shiur is online already. You're welcome to check it out. Tonight, I wanted to take you through some of his writings, but before that, let's explain to you. Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi was a Talmid Chacham from a Sephardic home in South America. Made it to Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael, the Chazon Ish sent him to America to learn by Rabbi Aaron Cutler in Lakewood, New Jersey. He became the foremost posek of Lakewood, New Jersey, from what I understand. And then, as the years went on, many of the Morei Hora, the poskei halachot in Lakewood, studied by him. At a certain point in time, I think things changed for the better or for the worse, and he ended up trying to go back to Eretz Yisrael. He was there for a period, came back to Lakewood, where he passed away exactly a month ago. Rabbi Abadi is a very special Talmid Chacham. Many people have heard of his writings, of his works, mostly in the realm of kashrut. I'm writing an article now about him to explain why that might be the case. But for right now, I wanted to walk you through a teshuvah of his entirely unrelated to kashrut, not connected to that at all. If you look at the cover page, Shut stands for Shelot Utshuvot, questions and answers. Or Yitzchak, the light of Yitzchak, he named the book after his name, Yitzchak Abadi. Kolel Shelot Utshuvot v'chikre halachot. It includes questions and answers and all kinds of halachic research. Binyanei orach chaim v'yorei de'ah, in matters of the first two volumes of Shulchan Aruch. U'me'at minyanei even ha'ezer v'choshen mishpat, and a little bit from the second two parts of the Shulchan Aruch. V'inyanim shonim, and other matters. And we're going to be taking apart a letter from the Inyanim shonim, from the other matters. Miti, for me, Hatzair, the young one, Yitzchak Abadi, Rosh Kolel Ohel Torah, the head of the Kolel Ohel Torah, Yerushalayim, Lakewood, Tafshin Samar Gimel. This book is currently out of print in the United States of America. You can get it as a PDF for free. The family is given out, and they're just pre-ordering now new copies, at $95 a set for the two volumes. You can get that on their website. I think it's Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi or RabbiYitzchakAbadi.com. Okay. I taught this introduction that's on page 2. I taught it when I was in Miami, but I put it there just for, what do they say in London, Rabbanit? For posterity's sake. It's there for posterity's sake. But for right now, let's turn to the back of the book, which in your should just be pages 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever we're going to speak about then. I wanted to do 3 different letters of Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, but I feel like I might only have time to do one. And on Chazon HaMoed, when we have time, we'll do more. Yep. I am where it says Siman Yud Zayin. That's probably page 5 or 6 in the PDF. I want to tell me. Yud Zayin. Somebody want to help me out? Who has the PDF? I think it's page 5. Nobody?
Sorry, what were you looking for?
Siman Yud Zayin. What page it comes out on in the PDF? Okay.
It's 5.
Page 5. Thank you so much. Page 5 in the bottom right. Siman Yud Zayin. Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi asks a question. And this question should bother you also. We say it every day in the Tefillah. We read a teaching from the Talmud which says, Hashoneh halachot b'chol yom. Somebody who studies, reviews halachot every day, muftach lo, it is guaranteed for him, shehu ben ha'olam haba, that he is a person who has a portion in the world to come. If you're cold, we can close the door. So this is something you say a lot. And the question is, what does it mean? And really, I was going to do a completely different letter about Korach and ignorance of halakha. But because that's what I spoke about by his 2-week mark, I didn't want to repeat myself so much. And we'll have a chance. We'll do that together when we can. I wanted to show you the way that a Chacham thinks. The way he views sources, the way he asks questions, the way he selectively answers them, and then presents perhaps a completely different reading of a topic that you may thought you always knew. You may have thought that you always knew. So, it says here, Rebbe Masechet Nida. Look in Tractate Nida. The Amrinan Hatam, it says over there on page 73a. Tana de Eliyahu. It was taught in the house of Eliyahu, the Beit Midrash, of Eliyahu Navi. Kol hashoneh halachot. Anyone who studies, reviews halachot. Muftach lo. It is guaranteed to him, shehu ben olam haba, that he is the son of olam haba, meaning he will have olam haba. Shneimar, like it says, halichot olam lo. Al tikre halichot ela halachot. We're familiar with this wordplay. You say it all the time in the tefillah. You say that in the tefillah. This is where it begins in Masechet Nida. Right, exactly. Was mixed, or I need to mix it. Okay. So says Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, "V'hinei mekubal." It's accepted, kimdumeli, I think, lahavin kipshuto, to understand this teaching in a very simple way. Shim lomdim b'chol yom eze halachot b'shulchan aruch. That if you learn a few halachot in the Shulchan Aruch, or b'kitzur Shulchan Aruch, or even in the shortened version of the Shulchan Aruch of Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, u'Mishnah Berurah, or in the Mishnah Berurah of Rabbi Chavetz Chaim, Rabbi Yisrael Meir HaKohen Kagan, b'zeh zochim l'chayei olam haba. That you study one halacha, or two halachot, or three halachot, that you get into olam haba just like that. V'lo, not only that you get into olam haba, ela m'shem muftachim l'olam haba. You have a guarantee that you go to Olam Haba. That's not just regular Olam Haba. That's a guarantee to get to Olam Haba. I remember when I was in Yeshiva in Baltimore, every single day, there was a bulletin board outside of the Beit Midrash. Every single day, on the bulletin board, they would have a guy who would write in beautiful handwriting, like a little postcard, like an index card. He would copy 2 halachot out of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. I don't remember where he copied from. He copied from one of the books. And they don't have computers, so he would write every day by hand, and then he would stick it, and the next day, and by hand, and he would stick it up. And you knew it was new every day because he had the date on it. It's not like he recycled these cards. In the elevator, and now they have them rip off like the calendars, yeah. But then he was writing every day, and he would write on top of there, Kol hashoneh halachot b'chol yom muftach lo shehu ben olam haba. Anyone who reviews these 2 halachot, you have a guaranteed portion in the world to come. That was always amazing to me, because for most of the people in the yeshiva, that's probably all the halakha they studied the whole day. If they didn't stop for 1 minute outside of the bulletin board and read those 2 halachot, they would have never studied halakha the whole day. It's like if they didn't say shacharit, they would never talk about HaKadosh Baruch Hu the whole day. Because who talks about HaKadosh Baruch Hu outside of yeshiva? That's the reality of the world we're in. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, I think that's the reality everywhere, that they think that it means you have to study 2 halachot and you go to Olam Haba. ואני אומר לעניות דעתי, and I'm saying in my humble opinion, כי חס ושלום, לא לזה כיוונו בתנא דבליהו. That was not the intention of this teaching of תנא דבליהו. וכי עולם הבא כל כך קל לקנות. It's so easy for a person to get עולם הבא. You just have to read 2 halachot, you go straight to עולם הבא. והכל פנים שהם מובטח, and not just that you get עולם הבא, but you get guaranteed עולם הבא. דוד המלך, עליו השלום, he says in תהילים, לולא האמנתי לראות בטוב אדוני בארץ חיים. I'm not even sure that I'm going to make it to עולם הבא. He wasn't sure. Yaakov Avinu was scared. Shema yigrom achet. Maybe he did an avera, he won't get to Olam Haba. And you read 2 halachot from the bulletin board, and you guaranteed Olam Haba. They didn't know the hack. They didn't know that they didn't have a Shulchan Aruch. That's why. If they would have known there was Shulchan Aruch, they would have learned 2 halachot. They would get straight to Olam Haba. But it can't be that this is what it means. That that's how you get to Olam Haba. And now, before he answers the question, most people, they answer questions. Very few people understand questions. very few people ever sit on the question. Every time I ask a question in Shiur, there are people who jump to answer the question. And there are some people who don't jump to answer the question because they never know the answer. Those, I'm not talking about them. There's some people who don't jump to answer the question because they're still thinking about the question. In order for the answer to be good, you have to really understand the question. Sometimes I ask a question, especially not when I'm here. When I ask a question and people think, oh, of course I know the answer. You think, if the answer was so obvious, do you think that I would ask you the question? I'm asking you a question for a reason. Sister Rabbi Abadi, I'm asking you a question. Could it possibly mean that a person who studies halakha every day goes to Olam Haba? Is that what it means? That you're guaranteed a place on Olam Haba? So now what he has to do is embellish the question. He has to teach us a little bit about how hard it is to get into Olam Haba. And for that, he's going to bring 5 or 6 Gemarot, Agadot, that teach you about Olam Haba. And for that, I made a separate source sheet on Sefaria. It's in the Google Classroom, in case you want to see the Talmud inside and not trust me for what I'm reading, but rather so you can see it yourself. If you go to the Google Classroom, you'll see in the invitation is a link to Sefaria. Is that Apple? No. 4221 is your phone number? Can somebody send lady please the source? Where? He tells us a story about Rabbi Elazar ben Durdia. Durdia is what it says in my Nikudot in front of me. Who is Rabbi Elazar ben Durdia? U'ma'avera lo, says the Gemara in the first source of my source sheet. Is it correct that one who repents of the avera of forbidden sexual intercourse does not die? V'atanya, we learn. Amru alav al Rabbi Elazar ben Durdia. They say about Rabbi Elazar ben Durdia. Shelo hiniach zona achat ba'olam shelo ba'aleha. There was not one professional woman that he was not with. I'm speaking nicely. Pam achat shama sheyesh zona achat b'chachei hayam. He heard once that there was a professional woman out in the islands. V'ayta notelet kis dinarin b'scharan. She took a whole purse of money for her wages. Natat kis dinarin v'halach v'avar alea shiva neharot. He took a purse of coins and he went and crossed 7 rivers in order to reach her. The story is an Agada, okay? So as an Agada, all of these details, they say darsheni. You have to, why 7 rivers? Why not 5 rivers? Why do you have to cross rivers to get to an ocean? What exactly is she doing in the middle of the ocean? Is it really all of these things require questions that I'm not here to answer. Maybe just the volume. So, Bish'at hergel davar. Okay, I don't know if I can. I can read this whole Agada. I didn't realize. Okay, something happened when they were together, and it really made him uncomfortable. And she said that just like this happened, Rabbi Elazar ben Durdia will not be accepted when he does teshuvah. Okay. Source number 2. Halach v'yashav ben shnei harim ugvaot. He went and sat down between 2 mountains and hills. Amar, he says, harim ugvaot, bakashu alai rachamim. Mountains and hills, please pray for mercy on my behalf so HaKadosh Baruch Hu will accept my teshuvah. Amru lo, the mountains and the hills, they told him, mountains and hills talk? No, it's an agada. They told him, Ad shanu mevakshim alecha nevakesh al atzmenu. Before we ask for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to accept you, we have to hope HaKadosh Baruch Hu will accept us. Amar Shamayim va'aretz, heaven and earth, bakashu alai rachamim. Please pray for me that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will accept my teshuvah. The same answer. Before we pray for you, we have to pray for ourselves. Source number 3. Sun and moon, please pray for me. They answered him. Before we can pray for you, we have to pray for ourselves. Amar kochavim umazalot bakeshu alei rachamim. Stars and constellations, pray for me. By the way, today I saw somebody advertising a book. I've seen it already for a long time, but they advertise again today about kosher astrology. And they have there all kinds of rabbis that wrote letters of haskama. I don't care. I don't care if you have 100 rabbis sign a letter that a pig is kasher. He's still not kasher. We don't do stars. We don't do. That's true. But that don't. I'm sure he thinks he's right. He's not. But look what the Rambam writes about people who are so silly they believe in such things. It's embarrassing almost that people who believe such things.
The way this really echoes Avraham Avinu when he was trying to figure out like the stars and the earth and the sun and everything else in terms of like eternal salvation.
Yes, look at his conclusion. It's also going to be like Avraham Avinu. Although different, but it's going to be the same. I mean, you'll understand why. Look at source 4. Amar, he says, En hadavar talui elabi. Must be that teshuvah, nobody can help me with it. Only I can help myself with it. That's exactly what happened to Avraham Avinu. At the end of the day, there's only HaKadosh Baruch Hu and him, and he has to deal with him directly. Hiniach rosho ben birkav. He put his head between his knees. V'ga'a b'fchiyah, and he cried so loud, ad sheyatzta nishmato, till he died. Yatzta bat kol v'amra, a voice came out of heaven and said, Rabbi Elazar ben Dudia, mezuman lechaya olam haba. Rabbi Elazar ben Dudia, he is destined to go to olam haba. By the way, Rabbi Elazar ben Dudia, when did he become a rabbi? Look at the next source. Bachar Rabbi v'amar. Yeah, Baruch, you're right. It did call him Rabbi earlier. But what do we know about this guy? There's no professional woman he has never been with. I mean, maybe there's some rabbis like that also, but it's not we wouldn't call him our rabbi like that. Bachar Rabbi v'amar. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi cried and said, and you should know, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is going to cry in a few stories today. Again, the Agadah is trying to tell you, connect the dots. Don't read these blindly. Yesh koneh olamo b'chama shanim. There are those who buy the olam haba, they acquire the next world in years of work. V'yesh koneh olamo b'sha'ah achat. And there's one who can get the next world in just a moment. V'amar Rabbi, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said, Lo dayan levalei teshuvah shemekabelin otan. Not only are balei teshuvah, people who return to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, accepted in heaven, ela shekorin otan Rabbi, but they even get the title rabbi. Kind of like every Israeli political leader who goes to jail, he comes out rabbi. That's usually how it works. And then he even becomes Harav HaGaon. If he goes to jail Harav, he comes out Harav HaGaon, the brilliant rabbi. If he goes in Harav HaGaon HaKadosh. He gets more titles when he goes into jail. But says Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, look, this man was a rasha. But the fact that he cried out of genuine teshuvah, not only did they invite him to Olam Haba, no matter all the averot that he did, regardless of those averot, but they also called him in heaven Rabbi. They gave him a title of honor. So says Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, keep this source sheet open while you look at the other one. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, Harei she'eno kal bichlal liknot chaya olam haba. Top left. So you see that it's not easy at all to get olam haba. V'chen mima shene'emru b'sugya b'ta'anit. And that which we see in the story of the Talmud, Masechet Ta'anit, מבואר שקשה למצוא מישהו בין עולם הבא. It seems like it's very difficult to find people who are worthy to go to עולם הבא. וגם אחרי שמצא לבסוף, הם היו אנשים שעמלו קשות על חלקם בעולם הבא. And even when you find somebody who has a portion in עולם הבא, you find that they worked very hard to get that portion. And that brings us to the next story in the Gemara, Masechet Ta'anit, page 22a. Look in source 6. Rabbi Beroka Choza'a. Have a shechiach beshuka devei lafat. He was often found in the marketplace in a place called Bei Lefet. Have a shchiach Eliyahu gabe. And Rabbi Eliyahu Navi would sometimes appear to him in the market. Amar de, he told him, Ika bahai shuka baral madati. He asked Eliyahu, is there anybody here in this shuk who's going to go to Olam Haba? Amar le, lo. He said, nope. Nobody here is going to Olam Haba. They didn't read the postcard. Adahachi v'hachi chaza lahu gavra dahav esayim mesane ukame vela reme chuta detchelta biglime. In the meantime, Rabbi Beroka saw a man who was wearing black shoes. That time, Jewish people didn't wear those kind of black shoes. Again, this is an Agadah. I'm not here to get stuck on the details of the Agadah, but when the Rabbanit, when they tell you that Jews are not allowed to wear white shoes now in certain Jewish communities, tell them that it used to be we couldn't wear black shoes. I don't know when they changed the rule to the white shoes. And he did not put chelet on the corners of his clothing. We're learning now laws of chelet. Amar le, Eliyahu Navi pointed to this guy and told Rabbi Beroka, Hai baral ma da'atehu. This guy who wears non-Jewish shoes and he doesn't wear tchelet, he is a man of Olam Haba. Source 7, Rahat Batre. Rabbi Beroka ran after him. Amar le, asked him, Ma uvadach? Tell me, what do you do for a living? Amrele zil ha'idna. The man said, go away now. V'tal machar, come back to me tomorrow. This rabbi comes over to you, says, hey, what do you do for a living? Get out of my face. Come back tomorrow.
I thought he was going to solicit funds.
Limchar amarle, the next day he saw him, and he asked him, Ovadach, what do you do for a living? Amarle, he told him, Zandukna ana. I am a prison guard. Abraham, you're not listening, huh? He's a Zandukna. Sounds better, the title you have. Yeah? Ve'asarna gavre lechod, v'nashe lechod. And I keep the men and the woman in my prison separate from each other. V'ramena puraye ben hane lehane, kehechi de la letu lidei suram. And I take my bed, and I put my bed between the men and the women so they don't cross the line and do averot with each other. Ki chazena bat Yisrael, diyaha v'nochrim ala enayhu. When I see that there is a Jewish woman in the prison, and one of the Jewish men, he's looking at her too much, masarna nafshai umatzelna le. I sacrifice my life to save her. So the next part of the story, again, we have kids. I don't have to read to you. Let's go look in source 8. Amar le, and he tells the story how he saved a certain woman once from men. Amar le, Rabbi Beroka asked him, Mai ta'ama let lachute. Why do you not have the tchelet on your clothing? But not having tchelet could just mean he doesn't wear tzitzit in general, not just he doesn't have tchelet. Urmet mesane ukame. And why do you wear black shoes? Amar le, he told him, Ayelna v'nafekna b'nei nochrim. I come and go between the goyim. Kehechet delo lidu dihudan. And I don't want them to know that I'm Jewish. Kihavu gazre exerta. And whenever they make a decree against the Jewish people, moda'ana lehu larabanan uvar rachame umvatre legzertaihu. I hear, because I hang out with them, I hear the decrees they're making about the Jews. I run to the rabbis pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the decrees go away. Meaning, I'm an inside agent. I am there, and they don't know that I'm one of them. That I'm not one of them. Umay te'ama ki amen alach ana mai ovadach ve'amart li zil ha'idna v'talemcha. I said, okay, now let me ask you a question bothered me since yesterday. Why the first time I asked you what you do, you said, get out of my face, come back tomorrow. What kind of greeting was that? Rabbi, you see, there are some people that every question you ask them why they do something, they have a reason.
Oh, I was going to say, some people are offended by it.
Some people, they just say, I don't know why. Yeah, but these people, they have forethought. He tells him, Amar le bahi sha'ata gaz legzerta ve'amena beresha ezin ve'shma'a ve'shlach lehu l'rabanan dilvor rachamei ala demilta. He said, I was in the middle of something. I heard something that the non-Jews were going to do to the Jews. I was running to the rabbis. You interrupted me about what I do for a living. I said, get out of my face. Come back to me tomorrow. I had more important things to do. Story part 1. Part 2. Rabbi Beroka is still in the market. Why do you think Rabbi Beroka is in the market? Yeah, either he's buying, he's selling, he works for a living. He's not... Maybe. Like, I'm willing to open all the reasons why he's there, but he's not there because he's a batlan. He's one of our chachamim. Adahache vehache, atu hanach tre ache. This is a nice little rhyme. But in the meantime, two brothers showed up in the shuk, in the market. Amar le, Eliyahu Navi told Rabbi Beruka, hanach name b'nei alma da'atininu. These men, and you probably know this part of the story, the Hasidim like to quote this part of the story a lot. And these two men, they also are going to Olam Haba. Azal legabayu, he goes over to them. Amar lehu, he told them, Mai ovadaichu, what do you guys do for a living? Amar ule, they told him, Inashe badoche anan, we are comedians, we're clowns. Mivadchinan atzive, we make sad people happy. We go around from place to place, cheering people up. You know, who knows if they're telling jokes, if they're busy riding on a unicycle, doing juggling balls, flipping. I don't know what they do. They make people happy. That's what they do. Iname ki chazinan be tre deit lehu tigra bahadaihu tachinan ve'avdinan lehu shalama. And other times we're not busy making comedy. We're not making comedy. So what do? We see two people fighting. We run over to them. We try to make peace with them. You can turn that up if you want. So who are the two people that go to Olam Haba in the story? The one who helped save people from averot or save women from being hurt. The ones that cause people to be happy. The ones that run around making peace between people. So far, what do you see from all of these stories? One, it's not so simple to find people who go to Olam Haba. In the whole shuk, there's only 3 people that go to Olam Haba. And not only that, the people are working their whole life to do things that make them go to Olam Haba. By the way, these might not be the things that you think about when you talk about people who go to Olam Haba. It's the guy who didn't wear tzitzit. It's the guy who's not dressed like a Jew. He's the one who's going to Olam Haba. There's a lot to be learned in this Haggadah. It's not for me right now. This is not an Haggadah class. I'm teaching a Teshuvah of Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi. So he says, back to Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, in the bottom part of that paragraph, Vadai shasiyat hashalom ben ish lereu en ze midvarim akalim. For sure, making peace between people is not a light thing. Ela shegiu anashim elu l'siyat tachlit ba'avodat Hashem b'simcha. But these people reached a very high level of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu out of joy. V'nat'u simcha belev anashim, and they put happiness into other people's hearts. V'kach hayu osim shalom ben adam lechavero al yedei zot hasimcha, and through their happiness, they made peace between people. This is a very interesting insight, a psychological insight. De'asimcha ba al yedei ha'istapkut b'ma sheyesh lo. People are happy when they're happy with what they have. We say, who is wealthy? The one who's happy with what they have. But that's also who's happy. The person says, I'm happy with everything that I have in my life. V'atigra ben adam lechavero, and the fighting between people, ba'a al yedei histapkut shel adam b'ma sheyesh lo. That a person who fights with other people is because he's unhappy with himself, with what he has. All the bullies in the world are really just broken people inside. It doesn't excuse their bullying. I'm not excusing it. I'm telling you, they're the losers in the story. They're the pathetic ones. Not usually the people they're picking on. And the reason why people get jealous of other people is because they don't have what other people have. And they want what other people have. That's why the Torah says, don't want somebody else's wife, somebody else's house, somebody else's money. Why would you want somebody else's money? Because I want money. I want more money than I have right now. The people who have money, they don't run around being jealous of you for your money. The people who are happily married don't run around being jealous of you for your spouse. The people that have children that are nice to them, and they don't run around being jealous of your children. I sometimes speak about my children in Shiurim to encourage other people. This one knows this pasuk, that one that. The one thing I never do, I try never to come here and announce things that are not necessary. Everybody has their own kids. Everybody has their own things. Enough, you don't have to be jealous of me for anything. You don't have to be jealous of you for anything. So I never talk about my wife to you or my husband to you. I don't have a husband. But all of the bragging, you can do that with people that are in healthy relationships. You'd be amazed if somebody gets married. All of their single friends, the ones that are healthy and they're still looking and they're happy and they're okay. They come and they dance. But at every wedding I go, I see the single friends that are mad. How come you gotta get married, not me? It hurts them. But not bad people. They're in a bad place. At every Brit Milah, I notice the people that they wish they had kids, or they had more kids, or they wish they had boys, and there's people who have a sickness, they want to have boys. HaKadosh Baruch Hu prayed them only one thing. I want to have children that are healthy. Everything else, healthy in their body, healthy in their spirit. Boys, girls, doesn't matter. As long as they are boys and they are girls. This is the matters. Everything else doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's a silly thing to be jealous of somebody else. Once there was a guy in the yeshiva, didn't tell Hara Peretz he was having a brit milah because he didn't want people to be jealous. It's a crazy thing. It was a not normal thing. But that's how people are. Because they're not happy with what they have. Oh, he took my job, he took my this, he took my parking spot. Abadi always tells me, if they didn't take your spot, if they took it, it's not your spot. Kadosh Baruch Hu gave it to somebody else. You hear now all day, they're taking my jobs, they're taking my money, they're taking my... How many of you are going to go work the jobs that all the other people are working? Come on. Come with me to Central Valley, California. Let's go to the grape field. Let's see how many people from San Diego want to go work in the grape fields in Central Valley, California. Esther, how many people who grew up in La Jolla are working in the grape fields? But they say, they took my job, and they took my... Why is it a job? You want that job? The guy in the back flipping burgers at McDonald's, you want his job? Come on. Be normal. You're not normal because you're jealous. That's what makes you not normal. Who are you jealous of? The guy who flips burgers at McDonald's. That's what makes you jealous. Also what is mentioned in Masechet Avodah Zarah. Gabe Kti'ah bar Shalom. Let's read the story of Kti'ah bar Shalom. The word Kti'ah means what? Chopped, like kata, to cut. Probably his name Kti'ah after what's going to happen to him in the story. But there are some Chachamim who argue that it was his birthday. You know the song? The Paitan said, "Hey shorty, it's your birthday." Yeah, this guy, he's very short. And that's why they call him Kti'ah. Yeah, he's a shorty, like he's a short guy. That's his name. Okay. And a rabbi say that all of the people in Rome, bad things will happen to them, except for Kti'ah bar Shalom. Let's look at Kti'ah bar 11. Kti'ah bar Shalom Mehavi. What is it that's going on with Kti'ah bar Shalom? Kti'ah bar Shalom seems to be a non-Jewish man. Dahu Kesara dehave sanan Yehudai. Source 11. There was one Caesar in Rome, an emperor, who didn't like the Jews. Amar lehu lechashiva de malchuta. He told the important people in his kingdom, Mi she'ala lo nima beraglo, somebody who has an ulcer, like a growth on his foot. Yikta'ena v'yichyeh, or yanichena v'yitzta'er. Should he cut it off and live? Or should he leave it and suffer his whole life? Meaning, I have these Jews growing on my foot. Is it better to cut off my foot and live and not have to deal with the Jews? Or am I going to have to deal with the Jews and suffer for the rest of my life? What do his advisors tell him? Amulo yikta'ena v'yichyeh. Better you should cut it off and get rid of those Jews. Amar lehu Kti'ah bar Shalom. Kti'ah bar Shalom is one of the important people sitting there. And he says, Chada, just so you know, it's not a good idea for two reasons. The first, Dela yachad lehu lechu lehu. You'll never be able to destroy all of the Jews. Why? Because the Jews are everywhere in the world. It quotes Pesukim. Obviously, this is an Agadah, okay? It says the Jews are like the four winds of the world. Just like you can't have a world that has no wind, you cannot have a world that has no Jews. That makes the anti-Semites the angriest to hear that. Furthermore, they're going to call you the kingdom that has his leg chopped off. You don't want to be that guy. The Jews will be everywhere except for in your kingdom. Amarle, he tells him, source 13, Memar Shapir Kamar, spoke very well. Those are good reasons. Mihu, but called the Zache Malka, Shadunei lekamona chalila. But anybody who defeats the king in an argument gets thrown to die in a room full of ashes. Meaning, you're right, but I wanted you to say the other answer. Rabbi always says that in Russia, in the Soviet Union, they also had the freedom of speech. So the difference is in America, you had freedom after speech, and in Russia, you didn't. That was the story. So here, you argue with the king. Of course, you can argue with the king. The problem is, what? If you argue with the king, then he puts you in a room full of ashes. What does it mean? He buries you alive. A person gets to die a horrible death of being buried alive. When they were dragging him out to go die, a certain matronita, a wealthy lady, told him, woe to the ship that goes without paying a tax. Meaning, seems to be in my understanding, she's mocking him. Yeah, you're going to go protect the Jews? You don't even have the tax of the Jews. You're missing a Brit Milah. You want to die like a Jew? You don't even have a Brit Milah. Nafal al Resha, he fell down with his head. De'urlate kata'a, and he cut off his orla. Amar yehavit michsai chalefit ve'avrit. He cut off his Brit Milah and he said, I gave my tax. Now I will pass and enter. Meaning, now I got a Brit Milah. Kikashadule, and when they put him into the ashes to die, Amari screamed out, Kol nichsai l'Rabbi Akiva v'chaverav. All of my money, everything that I own in the world, he was a wealthy man, should go to Rabbi Akiva and his friends. Now, there's a little argument among the Chachamim, how much of it goes to Rabbi Akiva and how much to his friends. Rabbi Akiva was doresh a pasuk, v'haya leHaron ulvanav, and it should be for Aharon and his sons. Over there, it means half goes to Aharon, and his sons share the other half. The same with Rabbi Akiva. Half goes to Rabbi Akiva, the other half goes to his friends. So, again, this is Agadah. But he's obviously ruling this halakha to his benefit. In source 14, Yatzta bat kol ma'ama, a voice comes out of heaven and says, Kiti'ah bar shalom mezuman l'chaya olam haba. Kiti'ah bar shalom is invited to go to olam haba. Bacha Rabbi ve'amar. Again, Rabbi Yonatan cries, and he says, Yesh koneh olamo b'sha'achat, v'yesh koneh olamo b'chama shanim. There are those who buy they get their next world in many, many hours of work, and some that do it in just a minute. Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi continues. By the way, Ben Yehuda here, says Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, the Ben Shchai. He writes that why did he go to Olam Haba was not because of the Brit Milah, but because he gave his money to Talmidei Chachamim. Like it says, Ashrei mi sheba lekan v'talmudo biyado. Praiseworthy is he who comes here to the next world, and his Torah study is in his hands. Which Torah study? The Torah study that he now enabled Rabbi Akiva and his friends to be able to study. Yes. Omnam, but this is a very important thing. People who involve themselves financially with Talmidei Chachamim. This is not something to be taken lightly. There's source, I can't speak much about it, but the sources that speak about it very, very much. Omnam, מה שיש לעיין הוא המעשה הנזכר בעבודה זרה. But the story you really want to look at, says Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, is a story in Masechet Avodah Zarah. Which story in Masechet Avodah Zarah? This one you actually know, though I'm not sure if you ever saw it inside. So look in our source sheet, source 15. Tanu Rabbanan, our rabbis taught, כשחלה Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma, when Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma became sick, halach Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion לבקרו. Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion went to visit him. Amar lo, he says, Chanina achi, Chanina my brother, אי אתה יודע שאומה זו מן השמיים המליכוה? Do you not know that this Roman government, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided should run the world now? שהחריבה את ביתו, they destroyed his Bet HaMikdash, v'sarfat echalon, they burned the Hechal, v'hargat chasidav, v'ibeda tovav, and they killed the righteous ones and the pious ones, v'adayin hi kayemet, and the Romans are still around. V'ani shamati alecha, and I heard a crazy thing about you. Shata yoshev v'osek b'Torah, that you are sitting around, involved in Torah, u'makhil kehilot barabim, and you are assembling people to study Torah in public, v'sefer munach lecha b'chekecha, and you have a Torah scroll sitting in your arms. Are you crazy? The Romans have shown that they're able to destroy the Mikdash. They're able to burn it to the ground. They're able to kill even the greatest Chachamim. And you're sitting here, poking their eyes out. HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided that they run the world now. Amar lo, he tells him, Min HaShamayim yirachamu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will have compassion. Amar lo, he tells him, Ani omer lecha dvarim shel ta'am. I am telling you words that make sense, that are logical. V'ata omer li min HaShamayim yirachamu, and you're telling me from heaven they should have compassion on me. This sounds like every conversation today with the religious people. Tameh ani im lo yisrefu otcha v'et sefer Torah ba'esh. I would believe it if you told me that they're going to end up burning you and your Sefer Torah in the fire. By the way, Talmid Chacham should be very careful never to say things out of their mouth. Amar lo Rabbi Chanina Teradon says, well, if I'm going to die, let's ask you this question. Ma ani l'chei ha'olam haba? Do I have a portion in the world to come? Amar lo, he told him, Klum ma'aseh ba'al yadecha? Is there any special thing that has happened to you that maybe you should merit to go to Olam haba because of it? Amar lo, he says, yes. Ma'ot shel Purim nitchalfu li b'ma'ot shel tzedakah. I had a situation where my own coins that I needed for Purim and the money that I'd collected for tzedakah, they got mixed together. V'chilaktim la'aniyim, and I gave away all of the money to tzedakah. Also my money and the money that I had for tzedakah. Amar lo, im ken, if so, mechelkecha yeh chelki, u'migoralecha yeh gorali. Then I pray that my portion should be with you in Olam haba. And that's how much a portion of Olam haba you have. Amun Rabbi say, Lo hayu yamim mu'atim. It wasn't so long afterward that Shnifta Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma, until Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma died. V'hachu kol gedolei Rom ilev kavro, and all the great leaders of Rome went to bury him. He was an important person. V'spidu esped gadol, and they, the government, they always pretend they're your friend. They eulogized him, great eulogies. ובחזרתן, and when they came back, מצאוהו לרבי חניניה בן תרדיון, שהיה יושב ועוסק בתורה, ומקיל קהילות ברבים, וספר תורה מונח לו בחיקו. And they come back, and what do they see? Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion, sitting there, holding a Torah, gathering people together, and teaching Torah. They brought him to kill him. V'karchu b'sefer Torah, and they wrapped him up in the Sefer Torah. So they surrounded him with the Sefer Torah. V'kifuhu b'chavilei zimorot, and they encircled him with bundles of branches, like you make a lag ba'omer bonfire. V'tzitu behen et ha'ur, and they lit them with fire. V'viu sefogin shel tzemer, and they took wool, like bunches, Ushraum b'mayim, and they soaked them in water. V'nichum al libo, and they put them on his heart, so he would die longer, slowly. Kedei shelo tetzeh nishmato mehera, so his soul would not leave quickly, wouldn't die fast. Amra lo bitom, his daughter was there. She was being made to watch. She said, Abba, my father, eracha v'chach, I should see you like this. Amar la, he tells her, ilmale ani nisrafti levadi haya davar kashe li. If I was being burned alone, it would already be hard for me. Achshav shani nisraf, v'sefer Torah imi. But now that I am being burned, and the Torah is being burned with me, mi shemvakesh el bona shel sefer Torah, hu yivakesh el boni. Whoever is going to seek HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give revenge for the sefer Torah, should ask for revenge for me also. Amru lo talmidav. His students ask him, Rabbi, ma ata ro'eh? What do you see now that you're being cooked alive? Amar lehen, givili nisrafin, v'otiyot porechot. I see the gvil, the material, the sefer Torah, it's called parchment, it's not parchment. The parchment of the sefer Torah is burning, and the letters are flying into the heavens. And they told him, Afata petach picha, v'tikanes b'cha ha'esh. Rabbi, Open your mouth already. Let the fire burn you and inside so you die already. Amar lehen, he tells them, Mutav shitelena mi shenitna va'al yechabel hu be'atzmo. It is better that I should give my soul to the one who gave me my soul should take it away, and not that I should give it to him. It's not my place to make myself die faster. Should have quoted this, by the way, in my article. I just published an article last night. I submitted. So, Amar lo Kehillat toneri. The Kehillat toneri told him, that's the executioner. Rabbi, אם אני מרבה בשלהבת ונוטל ספוגין של צמר מעל ליבך, אתה מביאני לחיי העולם הבא? Rabbi, I hear you're trying to talk to your students about dying faster, not dying faster. What if I do it for you? Let me take away the sponges and I'll put more fire and you'll die quicker. But will you promise me that you're going to take me to Olam Haba with you? Amar lo hen, yes, I promise. Hishavali, swear to me. Nishbano, he swears to him. Miyad hirba b'shanhevet, immediately he made the fire bigger. V'natal sfogin shel tzemer ma'alibon, he took away the wool from his heart. Yatzah nishmato b'mihira, and he died right away. Af hu kafatz, v'nafal letoch ha'u. Even he, the executioner, he jumped into the fire to die also. You hear stories like October 7th, the Holocaust, the Inquisition. These are stories, thousands of stories like this in the Gemara. The Romans were busy killing us all the time, just for the fun of it. The Greeks killing us all the time. We have a very short memory. But these stories are really here to remember the cruelty that the nations of the world treated us with. Yeah, these are all from the, right? Yatzah bat kol v'amra. A voice comes out of heaven and says, Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion, uklatz toneri, mizumanin hen l'chei olam haba. Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion and the executioner are invited in the world to come. Bacha Rabbi v'amar, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi cries and he says, Yesh koneh olamo b'sha'ah achat, v'yesh koneh olamo b'chama shanim. There are some who get their next world immediately, and some who do it, it takes them many, many years. Same over and over, the same story. That means the Agadah is here to tell you something. By the way, very simple. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi is the leader of the generation. It's on his shoulders that all of these things are happening. He has to watch. He's supposed to be leading Am Yisrael, and Am Yisrael is being destroyed in front of his face. Ela, says Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, here's the problem. The problem with the last story. Shesh kan adayin kama kushot. I still have a few problems with the story. Aleph, ma lashon omeret, ata mevieni l'chei olam haba. De'ech yevi oto im eno ra'ui. How can he say, I'll bring you to the next world? How do you bring somebody to the next world if he doesn't deserve to be in the next world? Number two, וכי חשב אותו קלצטנורי שרבי חנינא הוא הקובע מי יקבל עולם הבא, עד שגם דרש שישבע לו על כך, ואיך עשה רבי חנינא להישבע לו על זה? This guy thinks that Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion decides who goes to Olam Haba and who doesn't. I know there's some Hasidic rabbis, they promise you that if you do this, you do that, they're going to take you to Olam Haba. I said, Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, who told you that you're going to go to Olam Haba? And that you get to decide who goes to Olam Haba? Somebody once, I asked a Tamil Chacham in Yerushalayim, they say that if a person goes to Ukraine, I'm speaking gently, I don't want to make fun of the Chacham, it's not my intention. If you go to Ukraine, on Rosh Hashanah, and you pray by this rabbi's grave that he's going to take you out of, with your hair, he's going to take you into Gan Eden. You say, yeah, but it's a big problem. He said, because the Midrash says that at the entrance of Gan Eden is sitting Avraham Avinu with a sword. And whoever he doesn't want to come inside, So better, you should skip Ukraine and go to Hebron instead. And go talk to Avraham Avinu, because you want to make sure that even though he's going to pull you to the entrance of Gan Eden, you want to make sure you're going to get inside alive. Yeah. You need a protection over there. Lama kafatz oto klatz toneri v'nafal letoch ha'ur. Why did the guy jump into the fire? זה לא משמע שהם מפחד שיהרגו אותו הגויים. כי נראה שלא הרגישו בזה, שהם היו מרגישים, הם מפסיקים אותו מיד. מלשון הסוגיה, משמע שעשה אחר מעצמו. Why did the guy jump into the fire? He clearly wasn't doing something illegal. The Romans didn't realize it. If they would have realized, they would have stopped him from doing it. So why did he commit suicide? Who allowed him to take his own life? It's a prohibition for a non-Jew to kill himself also, not just Jews. וקושיה זו יש להקשות גם על אותו כובס שלא היה בהשקפתה של רבי. There's one more story, says Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, that you maybe remember, about a launderer. There's a lot of gemarot about people who do laundry. Many gemarot. You know, kofsim. I once thought you were Yosef Masas said about it. For now, look at the last source in my source sheet 23. Hahu Yoma dash kavte de Ribi. It was the last day, it was the funeral of Rabbi Yonatan. So Rabbi Yonatan was crying in the whole story. It's his funeral. He finally dies. Nafka batkala v'amra. A voice came out of heaven and said, Kol dehava bash kavte de Ribi. Anybody who was at the funeral of Rabbi Yonatan, mizuman hu l'chei olam haba, is destined to go to olam haba. Do you think that all the olam haba stories happen with Rabbi Yonatan for no reason? Of course, there's a reason. That's what I mean when I tell people you have to know how to learn an Agadah, not just to read stories. Hahu koves kol yom ha'hava'at kameh. There was one guy who was a launderer. That's what he did for a living. He did laundry, and he every day went to learn Torah with Rabbi Yonatan. Hahu yom lo ata. That day he was not there. Kevan dishma hache. Once he heard this voice, salek liigara. He went up to the rooftop. V'nafal le'ara umit, and he fell down to the ground and he died. The commentaries here are not sure whether he committed suicide or he didn't. The seeming of the story is he was so distressed, he went up to the roof and he died. Yatzta bat kol v'amra, a voice came out of heaven and said, Afa hu koves mezuman hu l'chei olam haba. Also that guy who fell off the roof, he's also invited to olam haba. Okay? Meaning, he's included also in the package deal. Exactly. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi, I need to understand how this guy is allowed to do that to himself. Person is not allowed to commit suicide. If they commit suicide, they certainly are not allowed to go to Olam Haba. So now we're done with this source sheet. Let's look back in Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi's Teshuvah. We're going to finish it now. יש להבין, דרבי חניה עצמו שלא רצה לפתוח את פיו כדי לקראת מיתתו, אם כן למה התיר לאותו קלצונרי להרבות לו בשלהבת וליטול הספוגים, הרי בזה הורה לו לקרב את מיתתו. The same Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion who said, I can't open my mouth to die quicker, is the same one who told the guy, you can kill me quicker. How does he answer the question? V'tzarich iyun. I don't have good answers. Just have questions. However, if Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi doesn't have answers, you also don't have to have answers. Sometimes you see a great Chacham, the Rambam, Rashi, they said something they're not clear about. You don't have to answer the things they're not clear about. You don't have to show how smart you are. Sometimes you could just say, I don't know. It's okay. So Raphael once told me about some questions I asked him in the book of Bereshit. He said, the questions are better than the answers that I have. I'd rather have good questions than bad answers. Rather that. Now let's finish the Teshuvah together in the few minutes that we have. So let me go back to my original question. If it's so hard to get to Olam Haba, these people are literally dying, they're making shalom, they're making people happy, they're bringing peace in the world. You're telling me you read 2 halachot from a postcard on the bulletin board, you go to Olam Haba. Guaranteed. V'kodem nedayek b'lshon she'amar. Let's first look at the word muftach lo. It's guaranteed shu ben Olam Haba. Dihine b'kama mekomot b'chazal muskar mezuman l'chei Olam Haba. Or leshon acher. He said, it says he's guaranteed. It says there are some places that says muftach. But most places like we read today, what does it say there? It says Mizuman, meaning he's destined, or he'll be there eventually, he's allowed to come. But it's an interesting word. Umatzati b'meiri, and I found in the commentary of the French Chacham the Meiri, Benidan, Masech Nidah, Shekatav, V'zeh Leshon, he writes the following: Kol hashoneh halachot, anybody who reviews halachot, Ratzan Omar, it means Shachar sheshana sugya, derech mechtav u'masa u'matan, that once he properly learned a whole sugya, what the Torah says, what the Mishnah says, what the Gemara says, what the Geonim say, what the Rishonim say. He learned everything. He then filters all the opinions, sifts through them, and says, this is what you're supposed to do in halacha. Not because I read it in a book somewhere, not because I copied from somewhere, because this is what my logical conclusion has reached. And he establishes them for himself to live these halachot, each halacha, based on the extreme learning that he did. Then he is guaranteed a place in Olam Haba. he's able then to straighten out in his ruling of halakha very well. ונמצא מזכה את הבריות בהוראותיו ואינו מכשילן כשאר התלמידים שאין נוהגים כן. He does not cause the people to stumble like other students who don't learn halakha properly. והביאו הדרך רמז מדכתיב הליכות עולם לא אל תקרא הליכות אלא הלכות. רצה לומר אם הוא שונה הלכות על הדרך שביארנו עולם לא. If he studies halakha in the right way, he will make it olam haba. Says the Meiri, this whole thing is different than what you understand. It means Talmidei Chachamim who properly study halakha, and therefore they come out of all of their learning with clear halachot. They get olam haba. This is something beautiful in our eyes. אלא שיש להוסיף עליהם עוד יסוד חשוב שנמצא באיגרת החזון איש להגאון רבי חיים נאה. There's a letter from the Chazon Ish. Remember, that's who sent Rabbi Abadi to Lakewood. To Arav Avraham Chaim Naeh. Many of the measurements you have in halakha, we use his measurements. וזה לשונו, top left of the page. ובכלל לא זהו המידה להרגיש את עצמו בדיון. When it comes to deliberating halakha, you have to remove yourself from the story. You have to be objective. ורק אל העניין ואל אמיתתו מגמתנו. Our whole purpose is just what is the topic we're dealing with and what is the truth that we're trying to come out of it. Not about me, not about what I want, not about what I want to conclude with. How many times you sit down to learn a sugya and I say, I want the answer to be like this, and I learn this. It doesn't come out like that. It doesn't. It comes out the other way because that's where the Torah took us, away from where you thought. ודבריו באיגרת זו אינם צריכים ביאור. I don't have to explain this to you. ואם אין אנו משיגים הדרגה הזאת בלימודנו, if we don't reach this level in our study of Torah, זה מראה עד כמה אנחנו רחוקים עדיין מהדרך הנכונה. Rabbi Abadi wrote I taught it a few weeks ago in Miami, that when he comes to study halakha, he doesn't ever study the halakha the way other people tell him to. He starts with the Torah and he goes wherever it takes him. Whatever the answer is going to be, even if he makes him disagree with everybody in the world, he's still going to say what he concluded is correct. He said, how many people never study halakha like that? They know. I once had a dayan call me. It was a dayan of a famous chassidut, I can't tell you which one. He read my book, many years ago he called me. He said, I read your book, I loved everything inside of it. I'm just so sad that I cannot do any of it. Why? Because I'm a chassid. I said, what does that mean? He said, I agree with you in everything in halakha, I just can't do it. And so I said, respectfully, are you really a dayan? Are you a dayan or are you a custodian of minhagim? What are you? You're like an office clerk. If you have the ability to reach a conclusion and you agree with that conclusion, so do it. What does it matter anything else? But not everybody is able to do what they know is right beforehand. So no matter what you study, we once had here the grandson of a very famous rabbi. He came here to the Kehillat. I said, my grandfather is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. He said, until it comes to Torah. When it comes to Torah, his rule is you have to turn off your brain, you're not allowed to think. Everything. He said he loves science and loves history and loves music. Comes to Torah, you have to be stupid. That's how his tradition is. Like that's the sadness of it all. No matter what it is, whatever comes out from the words of the Chazon Ish, Shima shuna alachot u'im negiot atzmiot kol shehen hare vadai she'eno masig et ha'emet. A person who studies halakha with personal motives, ulterior motives, then never he's going to reach the truth. V'im ken kol ha'tachlit shelo b'limud ha'Torah betela. Then all of the purpose of his study of Torah is useless. It's nullified. U'vadai shelo yuchal liyasher acharim b'derech Hashem. For sure, he cannot cause other people to walk on the right path of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. וכן ודאי שאינו נכלל באלה שכללם המאירים, for sure he's not included in the category that the Meiri says go to Olam Haba. I have this question for real. I've sat here with you many times. I told you just recently this week, I said, sometimes the Ashkenazim are right. What do you want from me? It can't be that all the time the Sfaradim are right. It can't be. It can't be all the time the Hasidim are right. It can't be all the time the Ashkenazim are right. If you sit in the Beit Midrash and always your opinion is right, then something's wrong in the Beit Midrash. Harav Peretz used to make us lists of things that Sephardim do wrong in halakha. List. I can't. I once gave a shiur about it, they almost killed me. But it can't be always Ashkenazim are wrong. But also, you sit in Beit Midrash, can ever be that a Sephardic opinion is right? Will you ever sit in front of your students and say the Rambam was right? Will you ever do it? You can never do it. Why? Because my minhag. Who cares about your minhag? Your Ben Midrash is fake. If you never can end up somewhere different than where you thought you were going to end up. I think this is something that sits very deeply in the heart of Rabbi Abadi, because this was his whole life like this. In the words of this Meiri yesh tochacha megula, there's a revealed rebuke. All of the Torah has rules. From that which it says, you learn what's not said. Anybody who does not study Torah the way the Meiri mentioned, for truth, deeply, going back to the sources, coming out with proper conclusions, so then he is the opposite of somebody who goes to Olam Haba. He doesn't want to say word, it's just the opposite. Yeah. אומנם באמת יש עצה לאנשים אלה, אם ישמעו וילכו בדרך ששונה הלכות מדריכם. It's possible for them to still do teshuvah and to go learn Torah from a person who knows how to teach them halakha properly. And the last paragraph tonight, Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi. I love that I thought I was going to do 3 letters. I didn't finish one. ועוד יש להעיר ממה שאמרו חז"ל. We learn one more thing from HaChachamim in Vayikra Rabbah. בנוהג שבעולם, it's accepted in the world. 1,000 בני אדם נכנסים למקרא. 1,000 people go to study מקרא, תנ"ך. יוצא מהן 100. 100 of them come out. 100 למשנה, if 100 go study משנה, יוצאים מהן 10. 10 students survive that. 10 לתלמוד, if 10 go study תלמוד, יוצא מהן 1. 1 of them comes out. ההוא דכתיב, that's what it says in Kehillat, אדם אחד מ-1,000 מצאתי. I found only 1 out of 1,000. Chacham over there used to say, so the problem is, if only 500 go study, then you can end up only with half at the end, half a person. So you have to always start with 1,000, or else you're going to be in trouble. ולפי זה כמעט סתמו בפנינו את הדרך, וכל אחד יכול כבר להתייאש מלצאת להוראה. He said, if this statistic is true, that out of 1,000, only 1 of them ever make it to the end, he says, then we have to just give up hope. We'll never come out of us poskim. Never will chachamim that rule halachot come out of us, because the numbers are not in our favor. And here he comes to save you with what? He comes to save you with Kabbalah. Now this is very unusual for Rabbi Abadi. I don't know his stance on Kabbalah, but it's very unusual for him to come save you with Kabbalah. But look how Kabbalah can be useful. There's a Chacham. His name was Rabbi Menachem Azariah Mifano. I don't know how to say his last name. He was a Mekubal. He wrote a book called Asara Ma'amarot. He says, Ulam en ze nachon klal, don't give up hope. I found in the writings of Rabbi Menachem Azariah Mifano, שהוראה הנאמר פה, אין זה לפסוק הלכה ולעמוד על אמיתתה. This has nothing to do with הלכה. אלא הכוונה לענייני סוד, השגות ודבקות באדוני, בבחינת זה לבנבהו, שיהיו מורים באצבע זה. He said, let me save you. Out of 1,000 will come 1 person who properly understands HaKadosh Baruch Hu. To understand halakha, there can be more. And this ending is not even an ending. This ending is a whole new question. What does it help me to have hundreds of people that know halakha, but they don't know HaKadosh Baruch Hu? How did you save me? You saved me by saying at least a few of us will go to Olam Haba more than we thought before, because we know halachot. What is the point of knowing halachot if we don't know HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So that's why we only did 1 letter of Rabbi Abadi tonight. But I think if I can end here and to tell you that our world became a darker, colder place without Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi. I never met him. The years that I already was able to have met him, he was not well. His children do incredible things for Am Yisrael. I'm sure his grandchildren too, I just don't know all of them. They do incredible things for the Jewish people. The students, for sure, are certainly inspired by their rabbi and teacher. As a person who lost a rabbi and a teacher, I extend my condolences to all of them. And we're here in any way that we can be. But I think it's important to recognize that there are chachamim of truth that walk among us. Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi didn't die 10 years ago or 20 years ago. He died less than a month ago. A Chacham who lived in this country, who taught Torah fearlessly, with courage, at the expense of his family, at the expense of his reputation, at the expense of what people said about him and his Torah and his books and his students, and it doesn't matter. Because if you have your purpose in mind, I want to make it to Olam Haba. Sof davar hakol nishma. The end of the day, what matters? To fear God and to do His mitzvot. What the neighbor thinks about you doesn't matter. What the in-laws think about you, it doesn't matter. What the nation say, it doesn't matter. What matters? What HaKadosh Baruch Hu thinks about you. Our rabbis say it's better that a person should be called crazy their whole life, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should never once call him a rasha. Never. Rabbi Abadi left this world never once having to be called a rasha. Never. There may have been people that said other things about him, and they're wrong. And it doesn't matter what they said. But one thing we can walk away with and appreciate, you don't have to be always with the majority of people in the world. You can look around the shuk and say, only a few of us are going to go to Olam Haba, but we want to go with the people that go to Olam Haba. We want to go with the people who make other people happy. We want to go with the people who defend other Jewish people. We want to go with the people who save other people's relationships. We want to go with the people who publicly teach Torah fearlessly, no matter who tells them not to. That's who we want to go to Olam Haba with. I don't know about you, but after 120 years, I don't want to end up with the people that read 2 halachot off a bulletin board. I hope to end up sitting somewhere, at least with my binoculars, I could see people like Rabbi Yitzchak Abadi. I hope so. B'ezrat Hashem. Aside from the learning of halakha, the knowledge of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Rabbi Menachem Azariah spoke about, we should also acquire that, one step at a time. Slowly, slowly. B'ezrat Hashem, I look forward to learning with you later this week.